Philip, do we have anyone phoning in?
I'm here, Mayor Brown.
The girls.
Okay.
Thank you, Garrett. Easy.
Okay, we're going to get moving here. So before we start this evening's public consultation meeting, we would like to acknowledge that the land in which we are gathered is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. We pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. So I do have, I think, Councillor Duran, he's online. And to my right, to your left, we have Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Bernard, the chair of the Planning and Development Standing Committee, Councillor Terry McLeod. To my left, to your right, Councillor Mitchell Tweel, Deputy Mayor Jason Cody. Next to the deputy is Councillor McCabe, and at my extreme end and to your right is Councillor Yankov. We have Bob Kenny, who is here as one of our board members. Basil Hamley just walked in, and I see Rosemary Hebert. And we have Shaylin Murray, she's on WebEx. Okay. Declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any?
Yes, I'm in conflict in the second item there.
So Councillor Duran is in conflict for item number 2, extension of Much Crescent. Okay. The approval of the agenda, we have 2 items, 4A and 4B. I just need a mover. Okay, moved by the Deputy Mayor Cody, second by Councillor Ramsey. All in favor? No problem? Okay. So just a couple of housekeeping duties. We have 2 applications, 15 St. Dunstan Street. Staff via WebEx will be Robert Zilk, and the presenter will be Tim Bork. Extension of Much Crescent will be Laurel Palmer Thompson, one of our planners. And then presenter owner David Morris, Warren Duran, New Homes Plus Inc. Prince Edward Island is currently in step 3 of transition plan to living with COVID-19. Public health guidance indicates that the province is moving from population health measures and restrictions to a situation where individuals will access their own risk based on a number of factors, including their own health and vaccine status and that of others, and the type of activity or event they are attended. Therefore, we are back to in-person meetings at this meeting. That's why the mic is in the center aisle. In addition, residents will have the option to participate via WebEx video conference if they prefer. The meeting is also live streamed. So if you did miss something tonight, you can just go to YouTube, City of Charlottetown. You can get the full meeting on YouTube, and a recording of this meeting can be accessed after the meeting. And that is an easy video link. We have video link is www.charlottetown.ca/video. And yes, I did mention it. Yeah. Okay. So resident and members of the public, again, the mic is there for you to participate. And I think that I will now turn it over to Councillor Terry McLeod, who is the Chair of the Planning and Development Committee.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to give an order of each presentation or the event. So there will be a brief presentation by staff, and then after the presentation, the general public will be given an opportunity to speak. Each participant will be provided 5 minutes in which to provide their comments or to ask their questions. We will start with members of the public in the room and then proceed to those on WebEx if there is. Council members will be allowed to ask questions of clarity, remembering not to give their opinion on the projects, as they are to remain neutral until the process is complete. Some reminders: while a member of the public is speaking, others are asked to show respect and decorum to all participants. Refrain from unmuting their devices unless you are asked to speak. When asked to speak, please make sure you speak clearly so all participants can hear your comments. Written submissions must be received on or before 12 p.m. Wednesday, June 29th, 2022. With that, I would like to offer many thanks to the residents who are joining us here this evening and to those who will be providing feedback and asking questions after their presentation. I will now ask the Mayor and Chair to continue calling the meeting to order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLeod. So the first presentation will be by Mr. Zilk. Is that correct there, Alex? So Robert is there coming in via WebEx. And Ellen, I do have a note here about the residents joining us in WebEx, Yang Zhang extending, that's canceled. Okay. Okay, Robert, do you want to take it over?
Thank you. Good evening, folks. Tonight we have an amendment to the CDA zone, so the Comprehensive Development Zone, in order to construct an addition to the existing retail hardware building known as Princess Auto at 15 St. Dunstan Street. The proposed addition is approximately 5,000 square feet and will mostly be retail space. The addition will fall in line with the existing facade. Before you is the site plan. As you can see on the site plan, they're just moving parking spaces, existing parking spaces over. The addition will fall in line with the facade of the building, and the loading bay will still be maintained from the rear of the building. This is an aerial view showing approximately the location of the existing area where the expansion will be constructed. This shows a photo of the existing Princess Auto building. This is the existing, these are the design floor plans, which the applicant, who's also online and can take any questions and provide clarification on his application, shows the extension of the retail expansion area. And these were the elevations that were provided to staff showing what the building would look like once the addition is complete. And with that, I can answer any questions, provide any clarification, and as I stated, the applicant is online as well to provide any information needed. Thank you.
Okay. Just forgot to mention that Councillor Gregory Verd is absent, so glad he didn't show up. I don't know where we put him, maybe over there by Phil and Gang. So the presentation has been made. If you have any questions about this proposed development, please come to the mic. Just introduce yourself, name, street, or you can just name your municipality. The next one. Okay, that was an easy one. It's the same for the next one. Okay, so we have the extension. The next one is with Laurel Palmer. She is here. I believe Warren Duran is here also, or is he by WebEx? Yep. Oh, that's right. Your brother is coming in by By phone, okay, but he can't be part of this meeting. So Laurel, do you want to make the presentation?
Sure. So, good evening, everyone, members of the public, members of council, your worship. This is an application for a request to rezone the remaining portion of land in Sandalwood subdivision, an extension of Much Crescent, PID number 773051, right here. Sorry, I just lost from R1S low density residential small to R1N narrow single detached residential zone. So the property is bounded to the north by R1S zoned land in Sandalwood subdivision. It is bounded to the east by additional R1S zoned land and West Royalty School, to the south by the bypass highway and West Royalty Industrial Park, and to the west by CDA zoned land containing a grouped dwelling project with 10 semi-detached dwellings. The land proposed to be rezoned is approximately 7.02 acres, and that will extend existing Much Crescent and will also include a small cul-de-sac right here, and this is the extension of Much. This will be the final phase of the development in the subdivision. Construction began in the subdivision in the early 2000s, and this proposal, it's to subdivide the property into approximately 46 R1N narrow frontage lots to construct single detached dwellings. Under the current R1S zone, 29 lots could be constructed for single detached dwellings. Therefore, if the rezoning proceeds, an additional 17 lots could be subdivided if the property did get the rezoning. The balance of the subdivision, the remaining portion of Sandalwood is single detached R1S zoning, but that is with the exception in 2015, a portion of land adjacent to this parcel in the subdivision was rezoned from R1S single detached residential to CDA, comprehensive development area zone, to allow a group dwelling project. That project consisted of 10 semi-detached dwellings. So this portion of the development, as well as the current proposal, backs onto the bypass highway. You can see it here, and there's also a parkland portion that's been allocated in this proposal for additional open space land. The developer, Warren Duran, is here, so Warren may be able to come up and give it a little bit more details on the actual product that he's proposing. We did include some slides, so if you want to come forward, Warren. And if there's any questions for me, I can answer them as well.
Gentlemen, ladies. So back when I started Sandalwood 20 years ago, we started single, small houses next to the elementary school to be affordable for the young people with young children and barely making a living. And here we are again, 22 years later. The young people have virtually nowhere to go, and rents are as bad or worse than mortgage payments. So this is going to give us more houses, but they're going to be almost the same size as half to 3/4 of the houses in Sandalwood. There'll be 12, 13, 1,400 square feet. There'll be slabs and 2 stories. I can't make a 2x4 cheaper, but I can make a lot cheaper. And the proposed price range is between $400 and $450. And that's about it. There's some houses. If you went over to Leroy McLeod's over in East Royalty, there's a Horseshoe, whatever it's called. In East Royalty, I don't go there. Anyway, there's one that's already done, and people could have a look at it. I don't see any reason for affordable housing in Charlestown, especially owner occupied. Some people were concerned that people would buy them and rent them out. But at $400, $450, you're going to have to get $3,500, $4,000 a month for a 1,200 square foot house, and I just don't think that's going to happen. So that's basically it. Small affordable houses. The lots are virtually the same size as the other ones, except the frontage is less. The houses will go back instead of wide. If you look back on the previous drawing, you'd see that most, can you click that back? No. Nope. One. So people will say, well, there's not going to be any room between the houses. Well, there's not now. They're virtually up to the lot line with the minimum. And the new ones will be the same, only the house goes back instead of wide. And that's it. Questions?
Warren, is that completes your presentation? Yeah, what you're referring to out there on East Road was Horseshoe Hill Boulevard.
Horseshoe Hill
It's an
Boulevard.
extension heading over to, I think, McWilliams Road. Okay, so we will open it up, and what we will do is we have both our planner, who's McCray, we have our planner here and also the developer, and just ask your question if you wish to ask it to our professional staff or the developer. So the mic's there in the center. Again, just your name, your address if you want to give it, or just your municipality. So the mic is open. Ma'am, could I just ask you, it has to be recorded, so just use the mic, and if you have to bring down the mic, just bring it down.
Okay. Hi, I live on Much, backing onto one of those lots. I just know how much traffic there is now, and I see from this, and we're a dead end right now, so it's amazing. And the kids, there's however many kids there are on that street. I'm seeing that the new section that way seems to have sidewalks, but it doesn't look like there's any plans to put sidewalks on the other side. Is that true? Like, Warren, you know where we live. Are
Yeah,
there going
yeah.
to be sidewalks there?
There's no sidewalks anywhere.
I know, and that's a problem to start with.
We
But-
build to the city's specification.
Okay, but are there going to be sidewalks put on the other side there if this were to be approved?
That will go back to Public Works and Beautification, and that will be forwarded as part of the capital budget for 23, 24.
Hearing,
But
maybe not.
What's that?
Probably not.
No, we, again, that has to go through a process, and the process is part of the counselor of the area submitting his or her wish list to Public Works Beautification, and then it goes to the it goes through the capital budget process.
Does the community have any say in where those, like, are there meetings or if
Through-
there are concerns?
Through your counselor,
Just voicing to him how we feel about
Correct.
it.
and forward it to the manager of Public Works, Mr. Adams, is another avenue to.
We've tried that
Okay.
in the past, but we haven't had any luck. Okay.
So the Haley,
Okay.
Haley, so the new street has 2 meters extra with the curb. So that will be in this part. There's an extra meter on either side of the road for walking, not into the traffic. Similar to the duplexes, those terrible duplexes down at the end. They have the curb and the bigger road.
Haley, could you just use the mic, please? And, no, we just want a public, on the public record. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Helen Flynn, and I live on Hummingbird Street. And I am disappointed that our counselor isn't here tonight, since this impacts on his jurisdiction, shall we say. But that aside, I don't really have questions for Warren. We're very, very happy in Sandalwood subdivision. But the challenge is, as more and more development happens in that area, the traffic is increasing enormously. It's almost becoming unsafe. Hummingbird Street is becoming unsafe because there's a lot of traffic comes from Much already. And a number of the drivers are not very respectful of speed limits in a very residential area. So I really, whatever the decision is about this, I mean, the proposal guarantees that the traffic situation that's really becoming an unsafe situation is really going to get much, much worse. So whatever you come up with, that has to be addressed because there's a lot of young families there, and then there's a lot of elderly people, and I mean older than us, who are out walking on a regular basis, and the cars are zipping around them in a way that's just not safe. So I would hope that that would be given some consideration.
Thank you, Helen. Again, we're just trying to avoid the applauding and other external issues. So could you please just keep it down to a minimum, because it's just allows everyone to be on a level playing field. Your name, please?
Amber Nicholson, and I also live on Hummingbird Street. I wanted to just reiterate what my neighbor had just said about young families on Hummingbird Street. So we're on 11 Hummingbird, right in the middle, and we have a son who turns 3 next week, who plays in the front yard. It's very close to that main drag that, if counselors look at the map, they can see that Hummingbird Street is the only avenue back to all of these new houses. So we will now become the throughway street to all of these extra homes. I tried to do some math on the additional lots, and if you just include the new 17, you're looking at least 136 vehicles going up and down if they go to work, and once in the evening, average of 2 cars per household. We'll see about 140 new vehicles on our street every day, which is about more than double than what we see today, which is, as our neighbor had said, it's already a very busy street. Secondly, the daycare that my son goes to is directly across the street on Hummingbird Street. So a lady does an in-home daycare there, and all of her children that go there are under the age of 4. So that also concerns me with the new development, especially given the fact that we don't have sidewalks on the street. So if they are biking, if they're out walking, if they're driving their little toy cars or their scooters, they're on the same street as all of these new vehicles. So that also concerns me. It's also a main avenue for all of the kids. If you look at the west side of that map, all of the kids take this path to school, to the elementary school that's at the top of Hummingbird Street. So we have the park at the top of our street that all the kids walk to, and beyond that park is the elementary school. So that's how they go to the school each morning, and several dozen kids take that path with no sidewalks. So all of this extra traffic is a concern for me as well, for a parent and friend and neighbor. So I just wanted to express those concerns, and thank you for listening, Mayor Brown and councillors.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to,
You want to respond there, Warren?
yeah. The new subdivision is going to cost over $1 million. I'd be willing to put a sidewalk on Hummingbird. Except that I'm going to need cooperation from landowners because it can't be out on the road. So they'd have to decide what side of the street, and I'll build it and pay for it. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Josh Silver. I live on Hummingbird Street. I want to thank you for having me here this evening. I would like on the record that I'm disappointed, as well as my neighbors, that our councillor Greg Rivard is not present. That's deeply disappointing. First, I'd like to state that this is not the neighborhood we invested in. We invested in a residential small R1S, excuse me. We are reducing the size of houses, reducing the size of our property values. I would be deeply concerned that we're pulling the rug out from under the current residents of what we invested in by changing that to an R1N. That's my first point. As stated before, I'd like to be on the record as well. This is going to drastically increase the number of cars. I live on Hummingbird Street. I encourage anybody on council to please come out and stay in my front yard for an afternoon, either in the morning or in the evening. It is already rush hour there. With this proposal, that will double the amount of cars coming by. It's starting to be a hazard for children, pets, any families recreating. I think that's a major concern of mine. The final point was the green space. I'm really concerned about putting a green space adjacent to a highway. I'm not sure I would want my children to play there. I wonder if we can't put it somewhere more central, where more look towards safety rather than profit would be looked at. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Well, Laurel, I'm just looking at the background there again, just to clarify, under the current zoning, it will allow for 29 lots, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that right, Warren?
Yeah.
And the rezoning will add 17 more, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So the mic is open, please come up and just state your name. If you wish to state your street or just your municipality, that would be fine. And as for Councilor Rivard, I don't know the reason for his absence, but sometimes this happens, and I apologize for that. Sir, could you state your name?
Sure. Is there a response from Warren to that previous comment, though? Or are we?
Thank you.
gonna
Either
skip?
Warren or Laurel. Mr.
So
Duran?
I can build 29 new houses tomorrow without changing anything. And we're going up to, I guess it's 17 more. Other than that, the houses are the same as on Hummingbird, same size. The lots are the same size, except that they're narrower, smaller frontage, which would be more conducive to small families and seniors. They'll have a bigger backyard and less grass to cut. So it works everywhere.
Okay.
And your name, sir?
So my name's Rob. Brett and I live on Much Crescent. We live on one of the corners of Much. We have 2 school-age children. So I have some of the same concerns that other people that have spoken have. So I do wish Councillor Rivard was here. I am very concerned about the traffic. And I do feel like some of the comments to make us feel at ease with it are inadequate. Like a sidewalk on one side of one street is not a solution. The green space isn't in an ideal location, and our neighborhood's already well served by a city park and a school grounds. And those are great green spaces, and they're great green spaces that the children and families in the neighborhood can access well, because it is a small lot, family-oriented, fairly quiet neighborhood. Traffic is an increasing problem, and the new development would add more traffic than we were expecting. Everyone in the neighborhood knows that those lots are there and are slated for development, but to increase the number of houses put in and associated traffic would be beyond our expectations, including when we invested in our properties. Red Fox Court, you can look at the map. It's a short jump from Red Fox Court to Upton Road by Apple Tree Lane. The other development that you mentioned in East Royalty, that Horseshoe Boulevard, is directly connected to McRae Drive. This development would be like traffic locked in through Much Crescent, Wisteria Lane, Hummingbird, Raspberry, Apple Tree. You're directing all of that traffic through those, through all of those streets. It doesn't have another way out of the subdivision. And the property values that you mentioned, I guess you could call them affordable. Like today, they probably don't sound very affordable to the target demographic that you're alluding to of young families or people barely making a living. There's no one barely making a living that can afford a $450,000 house. And there are people who can afford to buy them and rent them and would rent them. And you alluded to the price of rents and the rental market. There's no question those properties could be bought and rented. There is question whether they could be afforded by young families or people looking to convert to home ownership instead of rental. Those are my concerns and my comments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, okay.
My name is Richard Ryan. I live on Much Crescent, and I reiterate everything my neighbors have spoken about. I'm disappointed in the decision that this possibly could go ahead. If everything I've heard, there's promises of these will be affordable. This is the argument for affordable housing. I argue against that. I see this as just a blatant grab at money that is trying to increase the density to get more profit out of it. $400,000 to $450,000 I don't find is affordable at all. The fact that prices have launched into the stratosphere is not the entire population of this neighborhood's fault. I do see that these will be rented out as well, as previously reiterated. I also see this as setting a benchmark for a size of house. You said 1,100, 1,200 square feet on a slab at 450,000. That'll set a benchmark for everywhere, which will just increase the value of houses, not decrease. It will not help anybody except put money in someone's pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So affordable housing these days, I just sold a house on Royalty Road, 1,500 square foot with a finished basement for $731,000. So this is where the market is for a small house. The fact that I'm selling them for around $4, yeah, shoot me, that's as low as I can go. I mean, if you want an 11, 12, 1,500 square foot house, if you want any more than 1,500, 2,000, it's $6. Like, it's crazy. Or we could just stay home and let the foxes take over, whatever. But the way the prices are going, I don't see an end to it in the near future. So do something or nothing. Like, and I know, according to CMHC, that you're expected to pay your child's down payment of $80,000 to $100,000 so they can get into one. But anyway, we'll just start with this. And if it doesn't fly, then we'll just stop and wait until something happens. But I can build 29 tomorrow without listening to anybody.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just, no,
Sure.
Guy, that's why we have the mic in the middle. If you do want to make comments, it has to be publicly recorded. Sir, can you come up? Do you want to come up? Just give you your name, please, and address.
Fadbar Malici, a member of the Much Crescent. Counselor, Your Worship, just wanted to address an issue here. Mr. Duran says that he is planning to put in 17 new lots, which are roughly the same size as the other lots on the, but when you look at the map, it's clear that they're not the same. If you go to the next map, compare the two lots. The neighbors on that side, they have 2 lots per 1 lot. So the space doesn't increase, it's just adding 17 more lots. At $400,000 a house, he's making roughly around $7 million. That's all it is, it's just a money grab. When the person moves to a subdivision, he takes into consideration what the future of that subdivision is. He moves the family there, knowing that the value is going to increase, and then they plan on changing the plans and adding micro homes, as Mr. Duran says. The traffic, as earlier stated, it's about almost 9,000 cars if only 17 homes are added to that subdivision. That's roughly 9,000 vehicles that travel through the subdivision. None of the streets have sidewalks. There's 2 bus stops that pick up kids there, morning and afternoon. 9,000 vehicles, that's potential for disaster. All it takes is for one child to get hurt and For what? For $7 million in his pocket. Thank you.
Laurel, could we get,
Haley
a-
Myers, Much Crescent,
Yeah,
just to,
just one, ma'am?
Oh.
Laurel, could we just get a clarification on, with the report that will go to the planning board, the number of vehicles that, do we have a count on that, or is that something that was, could you just use the mic, please?
We would have to have a traffic study done for that. The manager of Public Works would not require a traffic study in this case because it's a residential street connecting to another residential street, low-density development. In my experience, there would not be anywhere close to 9,000 cars in that subdivision in the run of a day.
sorry.
Do you just want to follow up? I just,
Actually,
again,
actually, it's a very simple math. You don't need a traffic study. 2 vehicles, 1 vehicle per household, 17 times 17 homes. That's 34 in a day.
We've had some
Times
traffic
5
studies.
days a week. Just let me finish.
Yep.
That's 170. There's 52 weeks in a year. That's 8,840 travels through the street. That's for 1 vehicle.
You're
If
talking
there's
in a year or a day?
in a year.
in a year.
Oh, a year
Yes.
possibly, but
If
not
there's
a
2
day.
vehicles per home, that increases to 17,680 vehicles. Thank you.
Just again, Laurel, it was just for clarification purposes, so the numbers have been noted for the year, correct?
For a year,
Yeah.
9,000 for a year is probably accurate, but not 9,000 for a day.
No, no. Okay. And ma'am, we didn't get your name the last time?
Haley Myers.
Okay, Haley.
Much Crescent. Just to repeat what we were saying, and you wanted it on record, like when we all bought and built, we were given the 26 house plan, and so everybody, or 29, right? Yeah, and everybody was fine with that. That was what was communicated to us, and so we were fine with that. Nobody's complaining about that. Just so.
Thank you. Thank you. Just state your name again, sir.
Yeah, Josh Silver again from Hummingbird. Mr. Chair or Your Worship, could you please educate us on what the next steps or process may be with this? At least myself, I'm ignorant about that.
What we do is just we allow the public to participate as part of the public consultation. And when we wrap it up at the end, the process will be that the information and that's why it's important that any of the speakers use the mic, because Ellen Katani will transcribe all of the input, and that will go to the planning board meeting chaired by Councillor McLeod, I believe on Monday, Councillor? Yeah. And that will be another opportunity for the residents to watch it, because it's an open, transparent meeting, and it's on our live stream, or if you do come into City Hall, we don't have the space in the council chamber, but there is space out in our foyer to watch it live stream at council.
Okay, thank you. And the planning meeting would be for us residents to just observe, not speak. Is that correct?
I would say that this is the opportunity to participate, and if you wish to follow up this evening or today, tomorrow, with an email or correspondence, please get it in as soon as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, we'll do that at the end there.
Helen Flynn again from Hummingbird. Concerns me, the comment that was made is that a traffic study isn't required, which translates to me as it will not be done. So I am requesting at this point that a traffic study, no matter what comes out of this, that a traffic study on Hummingbird be completed. And secondly, that measures be taken to calm the traffic on that street, irregardless of what comes out of this.
Thank you, Helen.
Hello, Angela Barenthine. I also live on Much Crescent. My family and I moved here about 2 years ago from England. We bought the house without purchasing or without looking at the house in real life, but we got plans from our estate agent, and we saw the proposal of 29 houses, and we knew it would come, and we were happy with that. We said it will be a nice community to raise our children in. If we had known rezoning we would be here now, we wouldn't have bought in the community we bought in. It's not going to be the same community. It's going to be a small city, if you ask me. I lived in England for many years. I know what crowded living is like, and this is going to be crowded living. Secondly, I'm not sure if you're aware, but a lot of parents drop off and pick up their children from West Royalty Elementary School in front of Much Crescent. Every morning we have cars dropping. There's kids going from either side of the streets, and they cut through. And with the expansion of the school in the last year, we have really noticed that a lot more people are dropping their kids off because we've lost a large portion of the parking lot at the school. Every day, and I'm not exaggerating, we do see near misses. And because of the near misses, it's not going to be safe for our kids to be walking to school, for parents to be dropping off kids in the morning at school and pick up. Please think about it. Who's to say rezoning won't happen again? When does it stop? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just give your name and take down the mic if you have to.
Daisy Lee from Much Crescent. Hello, my name's Eva Barenthine from Much Crescent.
Bring it down.
Okay.
That's it.
So we have like 15 plus kids on our street, and we love to play basketball, and it's just going to be so crowded. We have really young children on our street, and if they're playing out and they're not careful, accidents might happen.
Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Bonnie Corish, and I live on Hummingbird Street along with my husband. My question is, I'm not quite sure how we got to this point. We've already had a rezoning in this neighborhood a couple of years ago. The neighborhood is established. So if we've gone through one rezoning to put in multifamily places, why are we doing this again to rezone the last plot of land with these very small lots? So we are not happy with this. We do support affordable housing, whatever that is in this market. If somebody wishes to buy a plot of land and develop that as such, great. But to change it at 75% in is not acceptable. So that's our feelings. Thank you.
Bonnie, just to answer your question, there was a resolution that came from planning for our June regular monthly meeting in June to go to the public consultation. It's a process that we go through, and that's why we're here this evening, just to get public input. And I think the Warren Durand submitted the proposal. Planning board discussed it, made a recommendation to council. Council passed it, and that's the purpose of this evening's meeting.
Yes, I understand the purpose of it. I'm just not sure why it comes to this when, like I said, it's at 75% developed. So that's our concern, is it every so often that a plan gets changed like this, or there's requests to? It seems unfair to the neighbors.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thanks.
Oh, come right up. Just state your name, street, or...
Terry Lynn Reynolds. I live on Much Crescent as well. Thank you for hearing our concerns today. Warren, thanks for giving us the opportunity to discuss our concerns. Clearly, the biggest concern is the traffic that's going to be happening. Hummingbird, I can clearly see, because I have to go up Hummingbird to get to Much Crescent. And it is a high traffic area. We had to put a speed sign up on our street last year because there were people speeding down, and we bought that speed sign ourselves because people were going down the street. We constantly are yelling at people to slow down, whether they be delivery drivers, skip the dishes, or even people just coming to look around. When we bought the house, we bought the land along with the house. It was all in one. And you got to decide the size of your house based on what was right for you to pay for your mortgage or whatever. So given that there would be 29 lots, people will be buying, I'm thinking, the land along with the housing plan, so they get to decide themselves the size of their own house. Our house is not as big as our neighbor's house. We got it based on what we could afford at the time. I had just finished school, my husband, and we're a young family, so we built what we could. So I think with the 29 lots, that would be sufficient based on the traffic that we already get now. And again, people can decide the size of their house and what they can afford on that. And it wouldn't change too much, you know, the people that are living there and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say that. We have also requested to have speed bumps put on our street several times. We've had councillors come around asking for our votes, and that was our number one thing. If you can put a speed bump on our street, sure, we'll vote for you, but still haven't got it. So I think people are very concerned of their kids. Like, there's lots of kids there, and our street is like, we get kids coming over from other neighborhoods to play on our street. So we don't just have the kids that live there, we have other kids that come and play. So just wanted to give you my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts.
Hi, my name's Jody Murphy, and I'm also from Much Crescent. And we are, you know, looking forward to the loop being finished because right now it's just land. But with 17 more houses, that's construction of 17 more houses. So the traffic is concerning for us. Like my partner said, we have 2 small kids. And kids that are smaller, the traffic's an issue. But construction traffic for 17 more builds is going to be more than just 29 builds. So just something kind of another concern of ours is construction traffic is even more concerning than 17 more families. But I will also say that a concern of mine would be that the 17 new builds would be a lot more rentals, and rentals isn't 2 vehicles. There's rentals on our road that have 4 or 5 vehicles per household, and they don't have small families. Like some of the rentals are families, and they more fit, but just the concern with the traffic. I just want to add the construction traffic as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jody.
Hi, Daniel Cousins. Just to ask, because you've been promoting these additions to making the housing more affordable, what would be the cost difference if you didn't produce these 17 houses and only produced the 29?
As I said, I just sold a 1,500 square foot rancher for $730,000, and I'm looking to build the same one for $450,000.
My name is Sean Myers, also from Much. So Warren, by that math, you're saying that the discount you're going to give them on the lot is around $300,000?
Not really, no.
Okay, so do you want to explain the math then?
It's the market. Right now, people are paying way above asking just because of the demand.
So your comment was that you sold a 1,500 square foot house for $700,000. You're saying you're going to be putting 1,500 square foot homes on these slivers of lots, but you're only going to charge them 4. So how does the math work out on that?
They're not all the same size.
Okay, can we go to the map that shows the frontage? Okay, the other one. It's impossible to read any numbers on that. I don't know if you guys have this map. Try to read any numbers on there. You can't see them. And I think it's intentional because the bigger lots in the back, yes, you can put a bigger home on them. But these ones down around the corners are only designed for those tiny, tiny houses, right?
Exactly.
Right. So that means, I think the young lady here said this was low density housing. that does not look low density to anybody, right? If you look at that swirl of homes, that is not low density, that's high density. There's a lot of homes being crammed into a small area. The same area where you will see there are 13 or 12 homes on Much, there's going to be 40 something crammed into the other area. So anyway, I don't want to talk about traffic because it's already an established fact, but I just don't think your math lines up. I'm sure you're honest, I know that, but I just don't think math is going to support what you're saying. Thank you.
Sure. So the difference between the 700 and the 450 is, it depends on how much they want it. Like the 700 was a bidding war with 9 offers and 7 of them over asking type of thing. That's just crazy these days, but these will be for sales for 450 without, whatever.
Yeah, if you wish to speak, just come to the mic.
So in closing, this is a proposal. All we hear daily from the media and councillors that we need more housing. And this is my version of it. And the $7 million, that's not all profit. Like, it's going to cost a couple of million to put in the roads and then cost of building the property. So if I had 7 million, I just go home.
Kate, Warren, can you just stay up there? Are there any questions for clarification from members of council? Okay, Councillor Tweel, just your question for clarification.
Thank you, Warren, for your presentation. My question is based on procedure, and one of the issues that kept arising here tonight was traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is not so much for you, Warren, it's for Alex or Laurel. If I understand it correctly, the procedure doesn't require a traffic study. And this issue comes up with neighborhoods all over the city. Neighborhoods like what we're seeing here tonight at Sandalwood. What does it take for the city to be proactive and embark upon traffic studies so that the residents can be aware, the developer can be aware, and the constituency that the development is having an impact and effect on can have the assurance to know, well, we know exactly how much traffic, proposed traffic, traffic that might be increased over a 5, 10, 15-year period with further development. That seems to be a deficiency in our process. Nothing to do with you, Warren, but it seems to be a deficiency because when it does come up, when development, whether it's a multi-unit complex, 3 or 4 stories, and we hear about, there's already too much traffic in our neighborhood, it's always self-inflicted because then we're going after the police department to monitor these situations. And, well, we can't be there all the time. And you heard tonight about speed humps. Well, we requested speed humps. We can't get speed humps. So it just seems to be a deficiency and disparity that continues on over and over. So maybe that's something we need to look at in terms of the official plan and the zoning and development bylaw that helps, puts those conditions where being proactive in terms of having traffic studies done so that residents can have that comfort zone. And I think also too, Warren, that helps you too. When you're planning, a proposed development, you know what you're dealing with, and the residents know upfront what they're dealing with. So I just wanted to bring that to the table, and maybe Alex or Laurel, you can respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tweel. Laurel or Alex, I don't know if it's a question of clarification, but could you just, Alex, point out where in the members who sit on the Planning and Development Committee, we share this information because it's come up before. Can you just clarify where does it fall in our zoning and development bylaw?
Where the issue of traffic?
Of what Councillor Tweel asked.
Yeah, you got to realize that there's very few applications that everybody says traffic is an issue, and traffic is an issue. I mean, people come with cars, We do have somebody on staff. Mr. Adams is well trained on this. Mr. Adams has looked at this closely. The reality, these are residential streets. You'll see an application that's going to go to you next month dealing with a traffic issue in another subdivision that somebody spent a lot of money to validate what Mr. Adams had already told us and could generally figure out because of the nature of the traffic on these streets. Low-density residential streets, it's all math. It's all done by math in regard to how many cars are on the street, and the traffic engineers know how to prepare those reports. And rarely do they ever, there's things called traffic warrants. And when you hit a certain number, certain things have to happen. But these low-density streets, there's not enough traffic on them. There is clearly an increase in traffic from what the residents are familiar with because there's always more volume being added. But when it's done and complete and the subdivision is entirely filled in, the numbers are, there's more than was in there initially, but it never exceeds the threshold for which they were designed. And again, Mr. Adams has been very, he's very well trained in regard to giving us that advice beforehand. And you'll see an application next month that somebody spent a lot of money to validate what we generally knew prior to doing the traffic study. Thank you.
And Mr. Forbes, we are doing a comprehensive review of the official plan and our zoning and development bylaw. The question has been asked. That could be something that, it definitely has to be something to be part of the discussion going forward, correct?
If council wants a traffic study done on every application.
No, I'm just saying, with the review, the comprehensive review of our official plan and zoning development bylaw, this is something that we could look at.
Those requirements are already in the zoning bylaw, and we generally know when something is, if you were putting an apartment building on the street, then you may move into the territory because you're moving it from a low-density street. And there are some low-density streets that still have multiple apartment buildings on them, but they're still functioning. So the bottom line is the mechanism is in there, whether you request us to get a traffic study or that, but the reality is developers want to know in advance. It's either, if we're going to be requiring traffic studies, we should say that up front. So to the councilor's point that they're not here this evening and dealing with the issue of traffic, we'll just, if we have to, we can make that a requirement. But most of those studies are validating what we already know.
Yeah, no, just what, Councilor McCabe has her hand up. Councilor McCabe, do you have a question?
I do, or more if I just want to make sure a clarification, because I think when we're talking traffic studies and with our engineer looking at traffic studies, we're looking at roadways being able to sustain increased traffic on the infrastructure. But what I'm hearing tonight is more that they're concerned with the human behavior piece of traffic increase. Sure. So people aren't following traffic rules, there's speed signs, there's increased families coming in, and we're seeing that. So I think I just wanted to make that point clear tonight, is that I'm hearing from the residents, it's not whether our roads can sustain more cars, it's whether or not they're going to be safe in their community.
Yeah.
Alex, do you want to just follow up on that?
Look, again, I mean, I'm a driver. I drive a motorcycle. Am I concerned at times when I'm on the road and lack of attention? And again, people are doing things on the roadway that make me nervous. But the key thing is that, we do have laws dealing with how people should be driving. I know that that's not necessarily the case. The comments from the residents are, in my opinion, those speeding around town is kind of throughout the entire town. It's not limited to one neighborhood, but better enforcement, things like traffic calming measures. I mean, there could be opportunities. That's not for me to comment. Mr. Adams could give us some really good advice, whether it's on this subdivision or another subdivision. So there are tools we have in the toolbox to mitigate other than just the traffic volumes that I was alluding to.
Councilor Twill, is it a question of clarification for, is it a question of clarification for the department or is it for Laurel? Do you want to clarify it, please?
Well, you know what? It's relevant to the discussion that took place here tonight, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to have that opportunity to ask those questions as a follow-up.
Well, you have the opportunity, right?
Great, thank you. So Alex, again, the question is, should the city of Charlottetown, or any municipality for that matter, be proactive to have those safeguards in, to do a litmus test of, how much traffic a particular neighborhood can handle, whether it's the status quo or an expansion. So it gives the residents a better insight and the developer as well, so that when we're having these discussions, we can have an informed discussion, and there's better awareness. We're being able to be proactive, and we can have those projections over, again, I'll reiterate, over a 5, 10, 15-year period. And again, with the magnitude of the development.
So again, Mr. Forbes.
Can you answer that?
Mr. Forbes, these are issues that will be, I'm sure, discussed at our planning board meeting, where the planning committee representing council and the residents come in. We have a 5-member committee made of council, and then we have our residential members. Do you just want to sum up? Because Councillor Yankoff has a question of clarification.
I don't, again, Mr. Adams is very helpful to the department, notwithstanding. I mean, it's like all of the departments in the city. Would we all like more employees? Would it be ideal to have a traffic engineer? A traffic engineer could be here this evening. I mean, that's something for you folks to deal with. I can only deal with the assets that I have in my department, and Mr. Adams, can make his requests, and that may come out of that future discussion in regard to the official plan. But the key thing is, as a part of these applications, I mean, we have a job to inform the public. When the staff come forward to answer these questions, traffic engineering isn't my domain. We rely on others to get that information, Mr. Adams, or could be other staff resources. But clearly, if we want to change that process, we can in the future through the official plan process, or different people that we hire on staff to possibly be present here, because a traffic engineer could have that discussion with the public much more readily, because there's a whole science to traffic engineering, which I am not that scientist, but I do rely on Mr. Adams, have a general idea of those triggers and thresholds that get hit that should require a traffic study to validate the concerns. And it's not only volumes that you need to sometimes have a traffic engineer, it's the geometry of the road, how the axes weave in together. It's a comprehensive review, but for the most part, these residential subdivisions are all linking up. This subdivision was already set by the 29 lots that would be in there. So the roadway isn't going to change, but it's 17 more lots. So thank you, Your Worship.
Mr. Forbes and Laura Lee, I respect your professionalism and also the professionalism from our planning department. I know that you do lots of hard work for us, and that includes Mr. Scott Adams as our chief engineer. Councillor Yankoff.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think I heard a few concerns around people buying into buying a lot in a subdivision, knowing what the end was going to be, and only to find out later on that it's changed, 75% into the development, which certainly is a frustration. And I'm just wondering if this is not something that we should be addressing in our official plan and ensuring so that when residents buy into a subdivision, they know exactly what they're getting without it changing. Like somebody had mentioned, I think it was Bonnie mentioned that, you're 75% completed, and now instead of having 29 additional residential properties, you're actually having an additional 17. And I know that there is a process coming forward soon to discuss the official plan. I think it's probably something that we really need to do sooner as opposed to later. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yankoff. Any other questions? Again, just to wrap up, there will be a planning meeting, a standing committee planning and development meeting Monday night, 5 o'clock, up at City Hall in the chamber. Because we're limited by space, you may have to sit out or we will provide seats in the foyer, but you can watch it live stream or on YouTube. And as was stated earlier, please get your comments into the planning department via email, planning@charlottetown.ca, or you can phone the office. Just use our City Hall number, 566-5548, and ask for planning. So if you need any more information, please get back to us. Very much appreciate your participation tonight and for being here tonight also. So I will go back to the agenda. Any introduction of new business? Seeing none. A motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Duran. And thank you, Laurel and Alex and the residents.